Assume technology has advanced to the point where every detail of your mind, memories, experiences, personality can be downloaded and uploaded into an exact clone of you. One day, you wake up and continue your life as usual, unaware that elsewhere, your clone has also awakened, equally oblivious to your existence. If neither of you knows about the other, yet both feel like the real you, which one truly is, the unsettling reality is that what we call self is nothing more than an illusion constructed by memory and experience. Free will? Just another trick played by the mind. We don't choose our thoughts, nor do we dictate our desires. They arise from prior causes beyond our control. If the self is an illusion and free will is a myth, then what truly governs our existence? The concept of free will has been a cornerstone of human thought, shaping philosophy, religion, and even modern legal systems. We take it for granted, believing we are the authors of our choices. However, emerging scientific and philosophical perspectives suggest otherwise. Free will is an illusion, a byproduct of memory and experience. Neuroscience has shown that decisions are made in the brain before we become consciously aware of them, suggesting that our sense of choice is merely an afterthought. At the same time, our sense of self, the entity that supposedly exercises free will, is equally illusory. We identify with our consciousness, yet consciousness itself is not the self. Rather, it is a fleeting phenomenon arising from brain processes. If our memories and experiences define us, then what happens if those are transferred to another body? The answer challenges everything we assume about identity, autonomy, and existence itself. We will explore why free will is an illusion, why self is not consciousness, and how memory deceives us into believing we are in control. The belief in free will suggests that we, as individuals, are in control of our decisions. We feel as though we deliberate, weigh options, and make choices freely. However, neuroscience paints a different picture. Studies using fMRI scans have demonstrated that the brain registers decisions milliseconds before the person becomes aware of making them. This suggests that our choices are predetermined by neural activity rather than being consciously willed. Determinism, the idea that every event, including human cognition, is caused by preceding factors, challenges the notion of free will. Our genetics, environment, and past experiences shape our preferences and decisions, often without our awareness. Even seemingly spontaneous decisions stem from prior influences. If you choose to drink coffee instead of tea, that decision is not an exercise of free will. It is the result of habitual experience, cultural influence, and subconscious factors that push you toward a specific outcome. Philosopher Sam Harris argues that free will is a cognitive illusion, stating, "You can do what you decide to do, but you cannot decide what you will decide to do." The sensation of freely making choices is real, but the underlying mechanism is predetermined by factors outside our control. The illusion of agency is just that, an illusion. If free will is an illusion, then who or what is making these decisions? Many people equate the self with consciousness, believing that their awareness is the core of their identity. However, this assumption crumbles upon closer inspection. Consciousness is merely a process, an emergent property of neural activity. It is not a singular stable entity, but rather a continuous flow of experience. If consciousness were truly the self, it should remain constant. Yet, our sense of self changes over time due to experiences, neurological shifts, and even brain injuries. A person who suffers amnesia loses access to their past identity but does not cease to be conscious. This suggests that selfhood is not tied to consciousness alone. Consider the thought experiment of a perfect clone. If an identical copy of you were made, complete with your memories and personality, which one would be the real you? If selfhood were intrinsic, there should be a clear answer. But if both versions possess the same memories and awareness, then you become an arbitrary distinction. This demonstrates that the self is not some immutable entity. It is a construct arising from memory and experience. Perhaps then, the self is not an independent entity at all. Instead, what we perceive as individual consciousness could be a fragment of a higher dimensional energy, temporarily inhabiting a human vessel. This energy may have split across countless bodies, experiencing life through different perspectives. When an individual reaches spiritual awakening, they may simply be tuning into a higher frequency, reintegrating with this greater energy field. From this perspective, there is no isolated self, only a vast interconnected whole, experiencing itself through different forms. Memory plays a crucial role in shaping our sense of self. Our past experiences create the illusion of continuity, making us feel like the same person from one moment to the next. But memory is unreliable. Studies show that human memory is malleable, prone to distortions, and often reconstructed rather than accurately recalled. If our sense of self depends on memory and memory is unreliable, then our very identity is based on a flawed foundation. Experience reinforces this illusion. Every new event subtly alters our perception of ourselves, shaping our beliefs and preferences. Yet, we assume there is a singular, unchanging self that persists beneath these changes. This assumption crumbles when we consider extreme cases, such as patients with dissociative identity disorder or those who suffer brain trauma and develop completely different personalities. These cases highlight that the self is not a singular continuous entity, but a shifting construct shaped by external and internal factors. If free will is an illusion, and the self is a construct of memory and experience, what remains? This perspective forces us to reconsider our assumptions about autonomy, responsibility, and identity. Rather than viewing ourselves as discrete individuals making independent choices, we might embrace a more fluid understanding of human nature, one in which our actions are the inevitable outcomes of prior causes. But on a deeper level, perhaps what remains is the realization that individuality itself is an illusion. If we are all expressions of the same higher dimensional energy, then separation is a temporary state, not an absolute truth. The universe may not be composed of independent selves, but of a single self-experiencing reality through multiple forms. Spiritual awakening, then, is not about finding the self but dissolving it, returning the fragmented energy back to the whole. In this sense, the self never truly existed. We are all one, interconnected and inseparable. This realization need not lead to nihilism. Instead, it invites a greater sense of humility and compassion. If people are not truly in control of their decisions, then moral judgment becomes more about understanding rather than condemnation. The self, then, is not a fixed entity, but an ongoing process. And free will? A beautiful fiction, one that serves a purpose, even if it isn't real. Acknowledging this can liberate us from the illusion of absolute control, allowing us to engage more deeply with the forces that truly shape our lives.